Everyone should be well aware of the problems in the car market today, not just the high vehicle prices and the ridiculous interest rates, but also the amount of money people are willing to pay each month just to get from A to B. People have also convinced themselves that a vehicle out of warranty is a ticking time bomb, which couldn't be farther from the truth so long you maintain your vehicle properly, which is something every single vehicle on earth requires: maintenance. And there's some other problems with the state of the car market today, and equally as important, and the main subject of this video, the fact that car mechanics are on a sharp decline, which obviously won't be good for anyone. So first, I'm going to start with the top problems with the car market today. The short answers, the short version. So high prices, of course, inventory shortages, the limited new car production leads to low dealership stock, which I might push back against that. I mean, dealerships tend to be pretty well stocked these days. The chip shortages, historically that was a problem. Not so sure that's really the case today exactly. High interest rates, of course, electric vehicle transition. Yes, the slow infrastructure growth, meaning there's not enough car chargers around. Plus, there's also the problem with people not having the ability to install car chargers because they might live in a rental house or a condo or a townhome or an apartment. There's a lot of people who just don't have access to a charger as easily as somebody who's got a driveway or a garage. And also the depreciation concerns. Yes, vehicles are depreciating very fast these days, not just electric vehicles, which is absolutely true, but also just regular ICE, otherwise known as gas vehicles. Those are also depreciating quickly. And Grok points to rapid tech changes, which, of course, yeah, that would partially be the case. But also, they're just charging too much for vehicles. And people just, for some reason, they just are willing to pay for them. And it's ridiculous. I mean, not everybody, but too many are still paying crazy high prices, which allows them to keep charging high prices. Speaking of which, dealer markups. Some dealers inflate prices above MSRP due to demand. Also, because often they believe that they could talk somebody into paying more for a car than they really should be. A lot of people are emotionally invested into a new vehicle that they set their eyes on, when you absolutely should not be putting your emotion ahead of your common sense and your practical interests, mainly your personal finances. Also, quality issues. The rushed production leads to reliability concerns in newer models. It's not just the rush to production, but it's also due to the fact that more than 50% of car parts that exist in newer vehicles today are not even produced by the manufacturer. They contract other companies to build parts for their vehicle, and then they assemble all those parts into their vehicle, which means that companies, they don't have quality control like they used to. When they used to build everything inside their own company, they were able to quality check everything and assure everything is working the way it should before they start assembling everything into the vehicle. But they're not doing that anymore. Most parts are made from other companies. So that's also a problem. And as well as leasing challenges, higher rates and fewer incentives make leasing less attractive, which, yes, of course, that's true, although a lot of people are falling into leasing. And also economic uncertainty. Consumer hesitation due to recession fears impacts sales. And I know that big R word has been looming for years at this point. Ever since COVID happened, it's been on everybody's radar, at least those who have been paying attention to the economy. Things are just getting worse and worse. And it just seems like it's artificially being held up somehow. I don't know. But anyway, so I'm going to move over to, why are auto mechanics disappearing? What's the short answer? Well, apparently auto mechanics are disappearing due to low pay, physically demanding work, advanced vehicle tech requiring specialized skills, and fewer young people entering the trade. Yeah, it wrecks your body. It's really difficult work. It's really stressful work. I'm sure you're always under the gun to complete a job as quickly as possible, because the faster you complete it, the more ideally you'll get paid, because if you quote the customer, it's going to take us 3 hours to do it, but if you can get it done in 2 hours, I don't know if this is ethical or not, but they might just be able to keep that extra hours worth of work, but maybe not. Maybe I'm totally wrong. I'm not a mechanic, so honestly, I'm not exactly sure on that, so I guess I'll just leave that alone. But also, what is required to be a certified auto mechanic today? And, back in the day, if you were ASE certified, and if you got the technical know-how, high school diploma, things of that nature, you should be fairly good to go. But we're not in that age anymore. Cars are a lot more advanced than they used to be. So starting high school education or a GED, you have to complete an accredited automotive repair program, which can be 6 months or up to 2 years. I'm sure they recommend the 2 years because the way they're designing these cars these days with the advanced technology that they have all over the vehicle, over 30,000 parts are assembled into the average vehicle these days. You probably need the most education as you could possibly get, but also the ASC Automotive Service Excellence certification in desired specialties, so you can go into one specialty or another. Also, your skills, diagnostics, electronics, and modern vehicle systems. Also, 1 to 2 years of hands on work, apprenticeships, of course, and you have to invest in personal tool set for repairs. So you got to have a lot of money up front to collect your own tools and be good to go as far as that's concerned. But also licensing, state specific licensing may be required too, and also ongoing education. You have to just keep up with the market, and it's always changing, and it just keeps changing more and more rapidly. So, what skills are required for quote unquote modern vehicle systems, as well as EVs and hybrids? So the first thing is diagnostics, which is the proficiency with OBD2 scanners and software for troubleshooting. That's pretty simple. I mean, I've got an OBD2 scanner. You can find them on the internet for like $20, $30. They do get more expensive. The more expensive they are, of course, you get what you pay for. It's going to open up, or it's going to be able to dig into a lot more of your systems. And some of those scanners, they actually show the performance, all the numbers and data and statistics of your vehicle running in real time. So if your engine's running, it'll actually show like your fuel ratio, and you'll see the numbers and the graph moving up and down and whatnot. So they do get really elaborate. I definitely don't have one of those. I have one of those, bargain basement AutoZone style. It just tells you what code, and that's about all it does. But I mean, it works for me. But anyway, so moving on to electronics, you have to understand vehicle control modules, sensors, and wiring, as well as high voltage systems, the knowledge of EV and hybrid battery systems and safety protocols, as well as also software skills, the familiarity with vehicle-specific programming and updates, electric drivetrains. You have to have expertise in electric motors, inverters, and regenerative braking, and charging systems, having an understanding of EV charging infrastructure and protocols. And you also should have a knowledge of hybrid systems, the knowledge of gas electric integration and power split technology. And finally, problem solving, having the ability to interpret complex error codes and system data. So there's a lot. It's a lot to know. And again, the market keeps changing. They keep adding things to cars. They keep requiring more and more be done to them, whether if it's through the EPA or some other government agency that requires additional features to be put into a car and market as standard issued, such as the rear backup cameras, which became standard in 2018. And with 2026 models, the cars that are about to come out next year, they have to have breathalyzer technology. That's real. You can look it up for yourself. Every single 2026 vehicle sold in America must have alcohol breathalyzer technology built into it. What does that look like? I don't know. I've looked it up. There's not really anything concrete that you can look at, but as far as I understand, it looks like it might be a sensor that's going to be built somewhere near where the driver's face will be located, maybe on like maybe the side panel in between the driver's window and the windshield, probably somewhere around there. But it's supposed to measure your breath, your alcohol breath content, which is absolutely wild. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous, especially for folks like me who don't drink. I mean, it's a waste of money, but I mean, they're just going to keep adding a bunch of crap to these vehicles that we really don't need. I understand it's all good intentions, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So, I mean, I don't know. It's just another way just to get vehicles to be more expensive and even more expensive and more expensive. So I have this video I came across. Mechanics are vanishing. Here's why. This is from the popular Car Care Nut channel. Huge subscriber base. This came out almost 2 weeks ago, about a week and a half ago. So he's an auto mechanic. He's quite well known on YouTube, and he also goes through some reasons as to why mechanics are vanishing. I'm sure he's going to touch on some of the bullet points that I pointed out, which I figured I would just point those out first, and then perhaps he might elaborate on it a little bit further. So without further ado, let's give this a listen.
The automotive industry
or a watch.
is, for lack of a better word, upside down currently.
Yeah, it's getting
Things
bad.
are going so south,
Not
and
good.
so many folks are not aware of it, and just it's not a problem. but it's going to be a problem in the near future, and that's not good.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you're going to buy a brand new car. So many people are buying brand new cars. Anything that's manufactured after 2020, I mean, like I said, 30,000 parts, so many electrical components, so many sensors, and so much that you have to take apart just to get to some of the most basic parts. I mean, at 2025, 2026, if you have to change something as simple as a spark plug, I mean, how much mechanical expertise is going to be required just for you to get to the spark plugs and change them? It's ridiculous. I mean, look, I drive a 1999 Mitsubishi. The spark plugs are right there in front of the engine, right there on the top, and all I need is just a simple socket, a socket wrench, and that's it. And my bare hands to pull the plugs off of the spark plugs. Super simple and very basic. That's the way it should always be. It should be very user friendly, very mechanic friendly, but it's not anymore. They're over engineering them to an absurd degree, and I mean, some people they blame it on the automotive industry just scheming around in order to force the customers to bring the car into the dealership. And it's kind of a scheme between the auto manufacturer and the dealership itself, because these days the dealerships, they make more money in the service industry than they do selling new cars now. And it's because they're I wouldn't even call it over engineering these cars. They're over engineering them to be rife with problems and overly complicated to do basic services on it. Whereas back in the day, they over engineered them to just mechanical perfection, super user friendly. They last 250,000 miles, 500,000 miles. I mean, just absolute solid engines and drivetrains and, all these components that went into the cars like, 25, 30 years ago were just outstanding and cheap. But these days, they're just going crazy with just the amount of complexities that are involved with these cars. And everyday people like you and me who don't have a background in auto mechanics or anything, we can't really work on these new cars. We just can't. They're just too complicated. And I'm sure a lot of these newer cars and even cars that are yet to come are probably going to require special tools that you're going to have to get eventually, probably even proprietary tools, such as companies like Apple, which you have to have a very specific set of tools just to be able to work on them. And you can't unless you're specifically certified in whatever vehicle, whatever automaker that is manufacturing that car. And I mean, I could just go on and on. But anyway, I'll let him
Automotive
continue.
technicians are leaving this industry at an alarming rate, and nobody is really concerned by it.
Nobody's thinking
That'll be
about it.
fine. There'll be more mechanics out there, right? That's actually not the case. And this has been going on for some time, but it's becoming so bad in 2025 that the effects are right around the corner. Let's get into the video and talk about some reasons why that is.
Let's do it.
So
Probably
the
just not
principal
getting paid
reason
enough.
why technicians are leaving the industry at an
Bad pay.
alarming rate. I mean, when I say leaving, not going from one shop to another, completely changing careers and just, I'm out, I'm done.
Wow.
The number one reason is pay, and pay structure, more importantly than the pay itself. Second,
Which is crazy because these new cars are so damn expensive to work on. Just to do something basic can cost over $1,000. So you would think that a good amount of that would be going to the mechanics, but it's not. It's the parts that are so damn expensive. But I don't know, whatever.
reason is lack
I'll
of
try not to interrupt
appreciation.
as much.
It's sad, folks. Mechanics are
Yeah, it's crazy.
craftsmen. They take pride in what they do. They work with their hands. They are proud of what they do.
They enjoy it. They
And
love
when that
working
is
on cars.
diminished,
They used to, at least.
It takes the joy out of it, out of doing something with your own hands. That's the problem. Let's talk about pay first.
Not to mention, you have to practically be an electrical engineer these days just to work on this stuff. It's
Because that's
insane.
really what started everything, and then everything else kind of followed. Here's how mechanics are paid. You're either paid hourly, salary, or the worst idea in the planet,
Based on the job?
rate.
Oh,
So
flat rate,
the
yeah.
automotive industry is upside down because of the greed. Everybody's greedy. All they care about is dollars and numbers. That's all they care about. They don't care about anything else. That's the reality, folks. Because of that, how do we
No
make
more
our
love for the field.
technicians feel the same way? That all they care about is the dollars and numbers. By paying them commission. See, welcome to the flat rate system, the worst enemy of quality. They're going to call it that. Let me explain it because you're not familiar with it. Let's say you do a brake job. The brake job is charged to the customer, let's say hour and a half, 2 hours of labor. Let's say 2 hours of labor. Well, the technician has an hourly rate, but it's not an hourly, you're just clock in, clock out hourly. They're actually not paid anything if there's no work. Technician gets this job, this brake job, let's say they do it in 1 hour. Well, they get paid 2 hours, and then they do the next one. Before you know it, they work an 8-hour shift. They could make 10, 12, 15, 20, and it goes up from there. That is how shortcuts and you know what?
Yep,
quality
rushing the
technicians
job.
are quality technicians. And when you're a professional, you've been doing this for a long time.
You're hustling them.
Jobs tend to go faster because you use your experience. You have the
Yeah,
right
you're
tools.
good at it.
Things
Do it
go
quickly.
quick because you're not stuttering. Wait, how does this work again? How does it?
Yeah.
You've done it multiple times. You go very.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, just even like changing my own oil in the driveway. The very first time I changed my oil, it probably took me an hour and a half to figure out what to do with everything. But now I can get it done in like 5-10 minutes. It's quick. Or doing changing your brake pads, for instance. If you've changed your brake pads, it might take you several hours at first just trying to figure out where everything is and how to do everything. But once you've done it once, twice, 3 times, especially with the same vehicle, I mean, you could get it done just real good and quick.
Very quick. This is where problems start, though. Technicians will want to make a better pay, but instead of them just getting a better pay, they will start to be very crafty at how do I get this job that normally would be done in an hour and it pays 2 hours, how do I get it done in 15 minutes? Yeah, by skipping half the job. Because there's a limit on even the fastest, most efficient, most experienced technician. There's certain jobs will just take their time.
Yeah, and sometimes there's been people who've complained. This is almost as old as time. Like people will go and get an oil change, and then they'll get home, and then they'll pull their dipstick just to do a double check, and it's still dirty oil. They never even changed it. Or the same with like the example I just gave, brake pads. I mean, they'll say that they got the brakes changed, and then because some of these mechanics just to rush the job and get some quick money, a lot of customers they won't take their car home and jack up their car and take off their tires and take a look and actually see if the brake pads were actually changed, especially if there was, I don't know, 30% of the brake pad left. So it's not going to be squeaking or giving those warning signs anytime soon, not for months. And so they'll tell them that, yeah, you know, only 30% of your brake pads are left. We'll go ahead and change them for you. And they just don't. And they'll charge you for it anyway. Happens all the time. But just because there's a few bad eggs out there, it really shouldn't be painted across the entire industry, because even though there are some greedy and greasy mechanics who will do that, they'll pull that crap, not all of them do. And I'm sure that there's many shops that take their jobs extremely seriously, and they want to service their local community, and they want the customer to keep coming back. You know, if you burn the customer and they find out, not only are they never going to come back, but they're going to tell everybody that they know not to go to your place, and it only hurts you in the long run just to get a fast payday. But a lot of these mechanics, they could just go to the next shop. You know, it's not necessarily the owner that is pushing these tactics onto their mechanics. It's a lot of these mechanics that are just taking those matters into their own hands just to get a quick payday. And it's really screwed up. And, you know, I don't really know exactly how you fix that, but, you know, it's very unethical, that's for sure.
That's the problem. If you look at all other industries, very few are actually paid like that. In similar craftsman industry, electricians, plumbers, construction workers, they're rarely paid like that because you need to give this person, this craftsman, their space to do their job well. And not every job, this is not like 1 or 0, black and white.
Yeah, but imagine like a surgeon. Imagine that's how that surgery operated. That, well, I know that technically it takes 2 hours to do the surgery, but I'm just going to get it done quick, like 10 minutes, in and out, real quick, sewn up, good deal, well done. And then I'm just going to go to the next one and see how many of these I could bang out by the end of the day. I mean, could you imagine if that was applied to everything across the industry? I mean, the way he describes this, and I've heard him talk about this before, I mean, it sounds like it should be completely outlawed, just this practice of paying people this flat flat rate or whatever.
A job could go very well or it could go very south. And you need to not punish this person when the job goes south, because this is just part of
Accidentally
it.
hit the mute button. Oops.
When you go into a plumbing job, well, we're laying some pipe for a new house. 10 other problems will pop up that you didn't anticipate, didn't think about. I mean, you can't think about. Things are going to happen. This is how the crafts is. Let's say you're going to diagnose a car. Well, usually the dealerships will charge an hour to give the technician an hour of time to really dig into it and find out what's going on.
Yeah, seems reasonable.
Well, sometimes it's such a complex diagnosis. What if it takes 4 hours? Do you know what happens in that case?
Possible.
Technician gets paid 1 hour. They worked 4 hours. After they're done with it, they get one brake job. They finish it in an hour. That's 5 hours into the day, 3 hours of pay. Then they get 3 oil changes back to back.
See, and that sucks for the mechanic too, because especially cars that are made after 2020, overly complex, it very well could take them 4 hours, 5 hours to figure out what exactly is going on. And if they're incentivized to take an hour no matter what, they might just look for the very first thing that could be the problem, even though there's 8, 9, 10 problems that also could be associated with this check engine light or sensor or what have you. And they might just fix the very first thing that comes along, and it's not going to fix it. And that's most likely, if you've ever been in a situation specifically, probably more recently, I guess, take your car in, they fix it, and then like 2 days later, the problem comes back, or almost immediately the problem comes back. This is probably exactly why. It's probably because they're not being paid the 4 hours that it should take them to get to the bottom of your problem. Instead, they find the first thing that could be the problem. Then they fix it, they give it back to you, and then, oh no, your car's still messed up. And I'm sure there's plenty of stories where they'll take their car back over and over and over again until finally, like after the 8th trip, they finally get to the bottom of what's really going on. And this is probably exactly why. It's this flat rate pay that he's talking about.
There's another barely an hour, and they go home working 8 hours, and they didn't get 8 hours paid. Would you like to work for free? That's all I'm going to ask you. And this is what makes technicians frantic. They're number one. They got now programmed into dollars and numbers. That's all we care about. Not quality, not craftsmanship,
not the customer,
anything else.
Not long-term customer relationships.
My brothers out there will take huge pride in what they do, and they will do the job right.
Well, absolutely. I mean, look, one of the most popular hobbies among men are working on their cars. I mean, you can't really do that with vehicles made after 2020, which is probably why a lot of guys who do this for a hobby, they're not going to have like a 2022 or anything like that. Not that those cars are going to require a lot of maintenance anyway, but it's going to get to that point where guys are just not going to enjoy working on cars anymore because there won't really be any around to work on that are in any way remotely user-friendly. I mean, 10 years, 20 years from now, you're probably not going to get like a 2025, I don't know, a Toyota Corolla or something, or a Honda Civic or whatever, and just park it in your driveway and just work on it for fun, or just buy something like a cheap fixer-upper and just kind of get it, up to turnkey ready and then sell it. There's a lot of guys who do that. They just work on cars for fun, and then they'll fix whatever few things that are wrong with it, and then they'll flip it and sell it and make a little bit of money. But that is going to start disappearing. I mean, our freaking hobbies, for crying out loud, they're going to start vanishing.
Some technicians, and when I say some, I mean majority of technicians, they will starve their families to do the job right. Unfortunately, they end up getting punished. Those that do quality work, they will rarely make high pay because they want to spend the time and make sure everything is good. And usually, and this is the second problem, which is right now, so many technicians realize, wait a second, I'm battling the system that is working against me when I can, because I'm already good with tools, I'm a craftsman, I already have the mechanical know-how.
Right.
If I go become a plumber, I'll make 3 times more. And yes, it'll take me a few years to go through apprenticeship and learn everything and whatnot.
Of course.
But I'm not starting from zero because I already have the mechanical aptitude. That my body can take the challenges of the job.
Oh, yeah.
I have the tools. I know.
Same with HVAC or any other kind of home maintenance. And those industries, they're not rapidly changing as insanely as the auto industry is with all of these complicated parts, the braking systems, the self-driving systems, and just like the adaptive cruise control and the start-stop feature, and these dashboard screens that are just insanely overly complex. I mean, there's just way too much changing way too fast. And I mean, there's a lot of auto mechanic shops, I imagine, if you take a car up there and if it was built recently, or well, let's just say a few years down the road, that this is absolutely going to be the case. Once the warranties expire with 2022s, 23s, 24s, 25 models, and down the road, if you have one that's like 10 years old, you're going to take it to a mechanic and they're going to say, look, we haven't been able to work on newer vehicles in years because, frankly, we don't have the money to buy all this specialized equipment, which is probably going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And plus, all these different automakers, even though they use similar systems, they're not going to be exactly the same. They're not going to be sourcing all of these complicated parts from the same producers of these parts. They're going to be getting them from different areas. So, I mean, you're going to have a whole slew of different tools and tablets and gizmos and gadgets and software and all this stuff just to be able to even simply diagnose a car, even before you even start taking stuff apart to get it fixed. And that's going to be a major problem down the road because, I mean, an auto mechanic, you're damn near going to need to be a brain surgeon in 5-6 years just to work at an everyday auto mechanic shop. I mean, the dealership is one thing, but working at a dealership, they're specialized in that exact that exact automaker. Whereas an auto mechanic shop, they have to be well versed in just about any kind of common car that you see on the road. And that's becoming an outright impossibility. So him pointing out the fact that a lot of them are just saying, to hell with being a mechanic, I'll just go seek out being a plumber. Not only does it make more money, but the industry is not changing at an insane breakneck speed, requiring me to go to work for 8 hours and then basically do homework for another 8 hours a day, or eating up my entire weekend's worth of free time, constantly brushing up on what is always changing in the auto market, just day after day after
I
day.
know how to use tools. I'm already mechanically inclined. I can learn quicker than someone who's never done any of this. When they do that, they just switch and they're happier. They're still doing work with their hand. They have a craft. They have that pride of craftsmanship, but they're paid a lot better.
Yeah, but also the issue with this mechanics problem is that automakers, they stand to win from this. The way that they're engineering these cars to make them very difficult to work on, it's a win for them. Because if you buy a car for X amount of money, 5-6 years, go down the road and it starts, certain things start breaking or need replacing, and these jobs are going to cost such a ridiculous amount of money, the customer is going to say, well, I might as well just go get a brand new car. And that's what they're doing. They're creating disposable vehicles, essentially, to where they're just not going to be possible to work on. And rather than start down that nightmare road of spending thousands of dollars for simple parts to change, they're essentially making it more feasible or economically, it would make more sense just for somebody to go buy a whole new car or to buy a newer used car that's within the warranty, for example, as opposed to just keeping your same car for 10, 20, 25 years. That seems like that's rapidly becoming a thing of the past, unless you buy a car that was made before, I don't know, let's say 2015 or 2018 or something like that. I mean, maybe if you keep a car that was made before one of those years, you might have a shot at keeping it for a long period of time, but that's kind of where things are heading. And the automakers are going to win because they're just going to keep selling new cars after new cars, because once you get something wrong with your car and the mechanic says, well, it's going to cost about $10,000. Oh yeah, and by the way, since this part has broken, you can expect this to need changed and that to need changed. It doesn't need it right now, but down the road, 6 months or a year, you're starting to enter that phase where you're going to have to start replacing a lot of high dollar parts. And if you add them all up together, it could cost you $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 to change everything to get your car back to running the way that it did when it was still under warranty, for example. And people are just not going to do that anymore. And we're going to be really between a rock and a hard place because the economy is not getting any better, and wages are not going up nearly as much as they really should be. And what are people going to do? I mean, there's going to be a handful of people who were lucky enough to hang on to a car from the 90s and the 2000s, and they've taken very good care of it. The parts are still cheap. Maybe they've stocked up a bunch of spare parts just for their specific vehicle, anticipating whatever auxiliary part to go wrong with their car. And long story short, they can keep that car on the road for the next 15, 20, 30 years and not have to worry about getting another one. But the other, like 90% of people who depend on a car with little to no knowledge, and they're just locked in car payments for their entire lives because that's, for whatever reason, that's just what they want. They're going to be at the mercy of these automakers, and they're just going to be stuck buying a new car every 5 or 6 years. And I'm not so sure if that's really going to be possible several years down the road, because just the direction our economy is going, I don't think it's going to be
And they don't have
sustainable.
to stress about this stuff. That's what's happening. And here's the biggest problem: the pay itself, the number, how much are they paid per flat rate hour? It's not on par with everybody else. It's a lot less. In the olden days, and this is, I'm just going to say, technicians got a percentage of the shop's labor rate.
All right.
Usually it's 1/3, which is fair.
Seems
Here's
fair.
the bottom line of this: 1/3 of the labor rate goes to the mechanic, 1/3 pays the bills, 1/3 goes to the owner, who is responsible for everything else, hopefully.
Right.
And when
And
things
liable,
go
too.
south, we're not going to punish the technician, and then we won't pay our bill just so the owner would get their cut. That's not how it works in good shops. The owner will take it as his business or her business. They will take the cut, but the technician
All
should
right.
get paid, and the bills have to get paid. That's how this works.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a business 101.
I'm sure, like
You
the
can't
restaurant
punish your
industry, I'm sure
employees
works that
for
way too,
your business's failures.
for example.
Well, that's not the case anymore in 2025, because the reality is technicians, I'm just going to say a number, and they're going to get in trouble for this, but it is what it is. The truth hurts.
All right.
On average, across the country, about 40 to 45 is where technicians' flat rate hourly pay is. Some will be more, some will be less, but that's about the average.
All right. I mean, that's a decent
How
wage.
much do you think the dealership rate is? Dealerships are now trending north of $200 an hour.
What? Damn, dude.
Well, now we just dropped to the quarter of the labor rate. And here's the
Yep.
other thing with that. If technicians do not produce,
And again, with the dealerships, they're specialized in those exact makes and models that their company produces. So they've got the equipment, they've got the specialties to work on that exact car. Whereas your everyday auto mechanic shop, they have to be knowledgeable in just about any kind of common car that's out there on the road, and that's not going to be possible in the near future.
they don't get paid. So the dealership is guaranteed their pay. Technician is not. In
Oh, wow.
some
Yeah.
states where they have unions or they have different laws or whatnot, technicians are guaranteed an X amount of hours paid, even if they don't produce that in work. But here's how that works. Well, you work 40 hours. If you don't make 40 hours of pay, I'll pay you 35, 36, out of pity. Why? You work 40 hours, you get paid 40 hours.
Yeah, you
You
should.
produce more than 40 hours worth of work in 40 hours, well, we're going to give you a bonus. That's
Seems fair, right?
But if you work 40 hours, get paid 40 hours, because that's the time you put into the job. Here's the other problem. Well, that's, I mean, you can live with that. Here's where problems get to the next level. Warranty.
Okay, here we go. Warranties.
Auto manufacturers will pay dealerships less than what dealerships charge customers. So what do the dealerships do? They pay their technicians less for the same job that if a customer pays, it pays more.
Uh-huh.
So now the technician is forced, and dealership
Which that's probably why they look for any possible reason to say, no, your warranty doesn't cover that. I mean, that's common knowledge at this point. They look for every which way they can possibly, look at to try to avoid doing any kind of warranty work on your car. They look, if the warranty covers it, they got to do it, but they're going to try to look for any possible reason to not do it, and he just explained why.
do
good
a
point.
lot of warranty work. That's actually one of the main things they do. They will pay their technician less. They will get paid from the manufacturer less, but expect to do the same quality of work. So
No incentive.
I don't understand it. Why don't we make it fair? Whatever the customer pays, the manufacturer pays. So
Right.
basically, the manufacturer is either telling the dealership, your labor is worth 1/3 less what it is actually worth to the customer, or we're telling the customer that we're charging you more than what the shop should be. So
Wow.
which one is
Yep.
it? I'll tell you which one is it. The
Push it off on the
manufacturer is cutting
customer.
dealerships short. Not dealerships, really, the dealership, to them it doesn't matter. The technician gets cut short.
Of
Well,
course.
there's the next problem. So wait, now the technician looks at it. My workplace doesn't appreciate me, doesn't pay me well. The manufacturer that I work hard to get trained in their brand doesn't really care for me.
So, what are they going to do once mechanics just keep dropping like flies and there's just simply not enough to keep up with demand? Well, that's when they start upping their pay rates and then they offer sign on bonuses and we'll start giving you a percentage of this and that. And that's when they'll start talking more money. But it might be too little too late. And there's probably some mechanics out there that were like, look, I've been through this dog and pony show before. This has happened in the past, which I'm assuming it's probably happened at some point. There's probably been a mechanic shortage at some point in history, but maybe not. I don't know. But that's what they're going to do. When there's a high demand for mechanics, but there's a very low supply, and whether if it's a dealership or a mechanic shop, they're going to have no other choice. It's either go out of business or pay those people more and do anything you can to get them in the door and working on cars. So I'm assuming that's probably going to wind up happening in the next, I don't even know how long, 2 years or maybe even 6 months from now. But if enough mechanics drop out of the industry, something's got to give. I mean, somebody's got to work on the cars. And I mean, if you buy a car that's got a warranty, and if something breaks that's under warranty, and you're guaranteed to have it fixed by your warranty, but the shop just doesn't have enough mechanics. Or what if there's like three mechanics that's working in a shop that's managing like what 500, 800 vehicles a month? It's not possible. It's really not possible. So I mean, how are you going to fix that other than significantly increasing their pay rate? So then once they get enough mechanics into the industry and working on cars again, they're going to start pulling these same tactics, and it's just going to go on and on in cycles. They're going to pay them a lot of money once there's a shortage of them, and then once they have a whole lot of mechanics in the industry, then they start pulling this flat rate tactic, and then that's when they'll start dropping out, and the wheels on the bus go round and around, I guess.
And the vision of everyone at the dealership, the dealership hierarchy is very.
Or the only other thing I can think of is that the automakers, the manufacturers, have to start engineering vehicles that are extremely user friendly like they used to be in the 1990s. So that an everyday customer, all they have to do is watch like a quick 5-minute YouTube tutorial on how to change your spark plugs, and they go up to AutoZone, they buy the spark plugs, and they change it. And it's a nice, easy, quick job. They could do that, but of course, the mechanics aren't going to get any money out of that. And the automakers, their dealerships aren't going to get anything out of that. So I don't really see that happening anytime soon, even though it absolutely should, because if there's going to be a permanent shortage of auto mechanics, that's really the only other feasible way that you can sell cars to the public. Just allow these vehicles to be really easy to work on, even though most people in the public, they're not going to want to work on their own cars. I mean, most people don't really want to, but as the economy gets worse, as things get more expensive, groceries, the power bill, whatever it might be, you could take your car in and get your spark plugs changed for like $500, which is absolutely insane. Or you can do it yourself for like $20, and you watch a quick 5-10 minute video, you do it yourself, it's done, and you just saved yourself like 2 days worth of pay by doing it yourself. I mean, a lot of people, they'll actually take that option. They'll say, well, I'll at least try to do it. I mean, like what's the worst that could happen? I'm not able to figure out how to do it, and I'll just go take it up and have them do it anyway. I think as time goes on, I think more people are going to want to get more hands-on with their vehicles, just because at the end of the day, they're going to save money, and they're going to save a lot of money. And everybody these days could really, they could really use every penny that they can possibly scrape up at this point.
You're just the lowest, least important person.
But
in
I
the
don't think
dealership.
that's going to happen.
You're just the
with the
grease-covered
automakers
person that nobody cares about.
They're just going to
in
keep
that stinky
over-engineering
place
this
called
crap.
the shop. But in reality, every dealership, financial-wise, makes their living off the service department, not sales.
Absolutely. That is
But yet
true.
the service department is treated last.
That's so
Technicians
screwed
pick
up,
on
man.
that, and they're
It's
very
ridiculous.
smart folks. They eventually see it as the system is just designed to work against me. I'm always wrong. And then here is the biggest problem. Say you did a work on a car and everything's good, car left. After a week, let's say you did brakes. After a week, brakes are making noise. It happens. Customer brings back the car. Hey, my brakes, you guys just did my brakes. They're making a little bit of noise, I'm kind of concerned. Guess what the dealership will do? Hey, technician, you messed up. Here's the car, go work on it for free. Figure out what's going on. We won't pay you.
Right.
So wait a second.
Because you should have found the problem the first time around.
You're paying me a very small cut from the labor rate, but I'm the warranty of labor. You see the problem there? That happens every single day at every single shop and dealership out there.
Wow.
The technician always gets punished when something goes wrong. There's a saying in the automotive industry, internal within technicians, it doesn't matter the 1,000 things you do right for the workplace, they will always punish you for the one you do wrong.
That's the case for a lot of industries.
Because in addition to you having now to figure out what's wrong with this car again, after you just touched it and you messed it up and all the berating and everything and the disrespect and
even if they didn't mess it up, if something else went wrong,
you have to not get paid to fix it.
Yeah, that sucks, man.
We're humans. All technicians make mistakes.
Absolutely.
Nobody's immune.
Everybody
from that
does.
Because it makes us human for a change. But they get punished for that by not only losing pay, but the disrespect, belittling, demeaning of the management when it just comes down. You messed up. You're horrible. You're skillless. You can't do anything right. After the same technician did 1,000 things right.
Uh-huh.
That's the problem. This is where it has been brewing to a point where technicians no longer want any, I want out. This is not worth it. Dealerships don't pay well, shops don't pay well. The flat rate system is destroying this industry from the inside out. Manufacturers do not really appreciate the craftsmanship and the hard work that goes behind cars. The technician is the warranty of labor. And on top of all that, I can just switch to a career very similar to mine and get paid twice more and be very well respected. Because I'll tell you one thing, not a lot of people disrespect electricians, craftsmanship.
Oh, no.
Plumbers,
he's absolutely right about that.
Construction workers, craftsmanship. Not a lot of people disrespect or distrust that. They don't have a reputation of being horrible. Mechanics, on the other hand, they always do. Some of it is self-induced. I agree. But equally as there are bad mechanics, there are bad plumbers, bad electricians, bad every other craftsmanship. See what I mean? Folks, we are heading into very uncertain times because this is where I'm going to feel old. I just gotta say. The younger generation is less interested in cars than few generations past.
Yeah, they really are.
That's just times change, interests change.
Yeah, it's like more people are getting more interested into, let's say, computers or gaming, playing video games. I mean, more guys are getting interested in things like that than they are working with their hands, spending time working on stuff as a hobby. I mean, a lot of people, they don't get the satisfaction from it.
Because of this lower interest into cars, lesser younger folks will be attracted towards the automotive industry. Which I get it. They're not interested in cars. You're not gonna. All of us started working on cars because we love cars from when we were little kids. Myself included, and every single technician out there. Nobody just didn't care about cars. Says, "Oh, I'm going to go become a mechanic." No, it starts with the interest in cars. And even those who are interested in cars. I mean, when you're young and you want to get into a career, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to find someone you know within your family, friends, church, whatever the case may be, who is in that industry. You're going to ask them, hey, I'm interested in this industry. Can you give me some leads?
100%.
You know what happens when you ask mechanics, most mechanics, what would you say to a youngin who's interested in getting into the automotive industry? You know what most mechanics will tell them?
Find something else.
Run for your life. Go become a plumber, electrician, if you want to work with your hands. If you like cars, make it a hobby on the side, but never enter this bad
But even
industry.
that's hard to do these days.
That's what they'll tell them. I don't blame them. because the
That's kind of
path to
soul
become a
crushing, man.
technician is a very rocky one, even with education. You basically start at the dealership, changing oil, mistreated, not trusted with anything, at minimum wage. That's how that starts. And all these ways and greed of everybody involved is leading to the biggest shortage of automotive technicians ever. You will find all kinds of technicians looking for work, but quality ones,
Right.
far and in between.
As cars get
And here's what ends up
exponentially more
happening to those
advanced.
quality technicians. That's why
How do you
they're
like that?
not available. Even if you pay them top dollar, the best pay and the best work environment, they're just not interested, because for them, if I'm going to move from where I'm at, I'm going to change my career. I don't want to do this anymore, because good technicians in a weak shop is a problem, because they're going to end up, you have 4 technicians in the shop, 3 of them they can't diagnose things. They're very juniors or entry level, or they're not really skilled, because the shop had to hire whoever who can hold a wrench.
Well, and not only that, but your skill set has to be going up exponentially as these cars get more complicated, and it's you're just constantly just chasing the lead vehicle. And I mean, yeah, you could make the argument that some of these mechanics could just go off and start their own business and start their own mechanic shop. It's just going to be really difficult with these newer vehicles and the insane amount of stuff that you have to know. Unless maybe you open up a mechanic shop for one particular type of vehicle, like we only work on Toyotas here or something like that. Like maybe there might be something to that. But I mean, maybe that's what the future might look like. Maybe your everyday mechanic shop may not be able to service any kind of vehicle you bring in like 10, 15 years from now. You might just see a whole bunch of auto mechanic shops that only specialize in only one particular type of vehicle, which they already exist. I mean, I've got 2 local Mitsubishi shops nearby that I know about because I have a 90s Mitsubishi, so I kind of got to know that. And that's not all that they'll work on, but that's what they specialize in. You know, if I need a new exhaust manifold on my 99 Mirage, they're going to find one. One way or another, they're going to find it. And that's the place I take it to if I don't want to pay an obscene amount of money by going to the dealership, who probably wouldn't really want to bother with my 90s vehicle anyway. I'm sure they would, but it just wouldn't be financially, advantageous for me to take it to a freaking dealership. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. The landscape it's going to
That
look very
one guy
different
that
like
is
10
good
years
gets
from now.
punished. He ends up with every single problem. And if it's flat rate, there goes dinner for the family. That's the problem. And that happens at every single dealership shop over and over and over when you have flat rate. That flat rate thing, I lived it the majority of my life. It is the number one stress of technicians. Because why am I working 40 hours with...
But see, one question that I have with this, if it pushes away all the skilled technicians, the ones who are truly talented and they're really good with a wrench, and they all run away from the industry, and it's only left with these minimum skilled, don't really care all that much, and they're still getting paid the flat rate, they're just going to keep making mistakes over and over again. And I mean, eventually it's going to reach a point where nothing's ever going to get done because nobody has the skills or really cares enough. They just stick around for, I mean, who knows why. I don't know, man. It just doesn't seem like it's going to be viable in the very near future if all the ones who actually care about what they do, if they leave, and the only ones who are left are the ones getting this flat rate, but they don't have the skills that everybody else had who left the industry, then nothing's really going to get done at all.
without a guarantee of 40 hours. That's the problem. I mean, think about it. How would you feel if you work 40 hours and you only get paid 35? I'll pay is 36 for good measure, just to give you some charity. Why? The pay amount, that's a different story. But pay me my time that I invested. I mean, I'm there ready to work. If you don't have the work, that sounds like you need to work harder on getting more customers through your door, not punish me by not paying me my time here.
Absolutely.
I'm here ready to work. Where's the work? That's a problem. In my opinion, and this is something I actually apply in my shop, I pay my technicians a salary. I don't count their hours.
Good.
And you were 5 minutes late, I'm going to dock you.
And I bet he's got outstanding customer retention too. I bet most of his customers have been going to his shop for years and years, I'm sure.
Technicians.
Because that's how you do it.
Here's the other thing. I don't make my technicians feel bad when they make a mistake. Because you know what? We're all humans. And plus, shops are a professional work environment. I don't, there's something everybody yells in a shop. We don't yell in our shop, so I
Yeah,
don't allow
right.
it. We're all professionals. We have a problem. We're going to
Work
sit
together.
down in a
Yep.
calm environment. Everybody's going to lay their cards on the table, and we're going to find a solution. Because the blame game does not get us anywhere.
No, it
And
never
that's
does.
another problem with how technicians are
It is
treated.
so
They're
true.
always blamed for things. Blame does not get us anywhere. Solutions do. If technicians makes
You
a
got it.
mistake, my number one priority. I own a shop. I'll tell you this. My number one priority is everybody okay? Is anybody hurt? I don't care about the car.
Yep,
I don't
safety
care about the
first, man.
equipment. People first. Is anybody hurt? After that, what happened? Let's understand what happened. Is there something we could have done differently to make the situation better? If there is, let's try that. And let's move on with our lives. Fix the car and move on with our life. If there isn't something we could do to avoid that, it just things do happen like that, well, glad everybody's okay. Now let's fix it and move on with our life. Get back to the same thing. There's no need to yell, demean, belittle
Yep,
the
get you
technician
nowhere.
for making a mistake. They already feel bad to begin with because it hurts their pride of craftsmanship. And I get it. I've been there.
That's a good
I
point, too.
understand how that
Yep.
works. But that's not the case everywhere. There are some really good shops out there. There's some even bad shops that treat their people well, but every shop is different.
Yep.
But treat your technicians with respect because they are craftsmen that do a fine job. The bad ones are bad ones. That's a different story. But this way of treatment have got us to where we are. And folks, this is how this is going to affect you, unfortunately, coming up very soon.
Yep, even as the customer.
You want to fix your car? 6-month wait.
Uh-huh. That, and also be ready to take it back again and again and again and again and again, because they'll just fix the first thing that comes along, and it's probably not going to fix your car. You'll bring it back the next day and say, "I'm still making this problem." Okay. And then they'll find the next first thing that they come across and they'll fix it. Just get you out as soon as possible because they're stuck with this flat rate crap. And I'm sure
What do you
I'm
do
sure
and your family
countless
do
people
in
have
the
that story
meantime?
already.
If your car is broken down or something catastrophic, or it's not safe or something like that, well, I wish we would have done that 10 years ago when this whole thing was about to start.
Right, and also, not to mention, the vehicle recalls are off the charts. I just did a video the other day with Ford. Over 2 million recalls have happened just in the first half of 2025 alone, just for Ford. So if you have a shortage of mechanics, how long is it going to take to service over 2 million vehicles that are under warranty? And remember what he said about warranty. They don't get paid as much when it comes to fixing something that's under warranty as opposed to something that isn't. And we're talking millions and millions of recalls that are happening, which is tying up the mechanics' time having to fix vehicles that shouldn't have had anything go wrong with them in the first place because they're all being assembled in the factory. Yeah, of course, there's going to be a bug here. There's going to be a problem there, here and there. That's always been the case for, as long as any of us can probably remember. But these days, with the millions of recalls coming only from Ford, and I think Ford does lead the industry in recalls, but there's pretty much anybody else. Even Toyota's got lots of recalls. Everybody's got lots of recalls, and they're tying up mechanics' time. So if you want to go take your car in to get serviced or fixed, you might be stuck on a waiting list for months and months because they've got a slew of vehicles to fix ahead of yours. And now you're just going to be stuck in that situation where, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to have to rent a vehicle, and will your auto insurance isn't going to cover anything that's mechanically wrong with your car. But even if it's covered under warranty with a recall, I mean, I'm sure in many cases they're not going to be able to rent a car for you or pay for one or give you a loaner because there's too many other customers in the same boat as you. And we might be rapidly entering that area as well, where you got to take your car in to get worked on, serviced, or fixed under warranty or a recall, and you're going to be without your car for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I'm sure that's already happening all over the place. And based on what he's been saying, it isn't going to get any better. It's only going to get far worse. I mean, a lot of people will probably just end up in a position where they'll say to themselves, "Look, I work 5 miles away from where I live. I'm just going to get one of these fancy electric bicycles that I keep seeing all these kids riding around on, and some of these adults have been riding around on. Oh, wow. It looks like these things can get up to 35 or even 50 miles an hour. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it. That's really dangerous, in my opinion, to ride a bicycle going that fast. But they're electric. I don't even have to turn the pedals. I can just sit here and ride this thing, go 15, 20 miles an hour, and get to wherever I need to go in a relatively short amount of time. It's we don't have to pay anything in gas. And these electric bikes, they only cost like, I mean, yeah, they're $500, $800. Maybe the higher end ones might be 1,000 or more, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper than having and maintaining a car. And you might start to see a lot of people just simply adopting these other modes of transportation just to avoid just buying a car in general, which, I mean, not to get all conspiratorial, but a lot of the global elites, I'm sure they would really appreciate that because they really want the car industry to go away. They want us to live in these little 15-minute cities and live really close to where you work and just ride your bicycle everywhere. You know, it's good for the environment, climate change, all this, that, and the other. But I mean, seriously, like you're probably going to start seeing a lot of people adopting these different alternate modes of transportation, not just public transportation, riding the bus and the subway, but getting something as simple as an electric bicycle, which are getting really popular these days, and they're only getting more popular as time goes on.
That's a problem. Folks, I'm going to say this on behalf of my brothers who I love and respect. Bad ones are bad ones, but that's not the majority. The majority are very hardworking, talented craftsmen who, some of them, I am proud and just privileged to have been able to get to know in my career. We're hurting, guys. Technicians are hurting, and it's not fair. It's not a fair work environment. And that's the God honest truth, folks. So next time you see a technician, a mechanic, that are good, that you know they are good, shake their hand, because things are tough in this industry, folks. This is a very tough industry. And they are leaving left and right, and I get it. I get it. You gotta, in the end, put food on your table for your family. And that's what they're doing. But the byproduct of that is, unfortunately, we may come to a point where a little repair takes 6 months to get in to see somebody, because
Yeah, they got the parts.
what good is that big beautiful building that has
Nobody to put it
50
in.
bays in it if there's only 2 technicians working, and they can only do so much a day?
Yeah.
That's a problem, folks. I just
Again,
wanted to share it with
also
you
with the
because
recalls.
this industry is headed into a very tough spot pretty soon in the future, and if this video helps a little bit bring awareness to that for my brothers, for my behalf, on the wonderful guys that I have working in the shop here, I hope it serves a purpose. I hope you
Yeah, I
guys are
mean,
not aware that there's a big problem in this industry.
yep, and it is. And again, this is the Car Care Nut, his channel. I thought I already subscribed to him. I don't know. I mean, I am now. So there you have it. But I mean, with the supply of mechanics just dropping like flies, I mean, you're going to get customers that are going to be told that it's going to take 3 months, 4 months, 5 months just to get something relatively simple fixed on your car. And you might start to see this growth of somewhat of a new industry, kind of like how people change windshields. You know how they come to you, they go to your house, they set up in your driveway, and they change your windshield. I actually had my windshield replaced probably about 3 months ago. At this point, it was the factory windshield in a 27-year-old car, all scratched up from my windshield wipers over the years and everything. Desperately needed replaced. It finally cracked, so I had to get a new one because it's illegal to drive with a cracked windshield. So I had a new one put in, night and day. Feels like driving a brand new car. It's absolutely amazing. I highly recommend it if you have an old car with the windshield. But anyway, so you're probably going to start seeing a lot of people who are mechanically gifted. And now to run your own business, I'm sure you have to be ASE certified or have the proper certifications, but you might start seeing people who will just work for themselves, and they'll put up ads and they'll say, hey, do you need this done and that done? And they might offer a list of services that they can do, and also the different vehicles that they are specialized in. And you might start seeing people who would be willing to go to wherever your car is and then fix your car on the spot. I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not well versed in the mechanics industry or anything. I don't know how feasible that might be. I know that you do have to have a ton of tools with you because, different problems need different sets of tools. So, I mean, somebody driving around in a work van, like what plumbers do, for instance, or electricians, I mean, yeah, I know auto mechanics, they require a lot more tools than other industries would require, but you might start to see a growth in that where mechanics, they've got the know-how, they've got the skills, they've got the talent. They just don't want to work in this flat rate, crappy environment anymore. And rather than starting up their own shop where they've got, an actual brick and mortar building that they have to pay taxes on and rent, or that they're leasing or whatever. They could possibly get into a situation where they could just buy a really nice work vehicle and just be mobile and go to wherever the car problem is. I mean, again, I don't know how feasible that is. I mean, you can't bring an entire vehicle lift with you unless they're making mobile lifts now. Actually, I did see, I believe it was on Amazon, and I don't know how easy it would be to set it up in like somebody's driveway, but I have seen these like airbag suspension lifts where you can slide it underneath the car and hit a button and it actually lifts the car like 3 feet off the ground. I have seen those, and they'll run like $1,000, $1,500. So maybe they might have something like that where they can easily set up something where they can lift the car to a point where they actually could work on your vehicle outside as if they're inside a shop. We might start to see, a growth of an industry like that in the future. I honestly don't know, but yeah, I mean, things are gonna have to change, because I mean, the morale with mechanics, it's not been down recently. It's been that way for a long time, and like you said, it's only going to keep getting worse, especially as younger adults start hitting the workforce and they don't have an interest in working on cars like they used to. I mean, look, a lot of these people who were kids and they had an interest in cars, yeah, there was movies, there was like Fast and the Furious and cars and stuff like that, but they also had men in their lives, their dad, their uncle, maybe their dad's best friend or something, who enjoyed working on cars. And anytime that you went to, your aunt and uncle's or your cousin's birthday party or whatever, your uncle's always working on the car or what have you. I mean, a lot of these people who were kids, they had members of their families that were working on cars, and that's where they got a lot of the interest. But these days, not a lot of adults, people becoming adults, they don't really want to work on cars like they used to, because they're just not as easy to work on as they used to be. So a lot of people are like, yeah, I mean, like I've got a car that's like a 2020 whatever. I mean, it's not something that I can easily just take apart and fix in my driveway, because there's just too much required, too many electronics, too many gadgets. And that's also going to create a major problem. You're not going to see a lot of kids in the near future that are going to have the interest that, let's say, my generation, the millennial generation, had when we were kids. I mean, we had a lot of relatives that were working on cars for fun, but that's really not going to be the case in the future, because they're becoming impossible to work on. So anyway, that's all I got. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you can, and I will see you later.